Yay Media Group.
And I had a couple of casting directors early on who, after I got a couple of jobs, who they told me sort of like, yeah, you just seemed like you didn't need it.
Oh, and isn't that the key to getting acting roles?
Calling.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Hey Dude, the 90s Called. I am one of your co-hosts, David Lasher, and I'm here with my beautiful partner in nostalgia, Christine Taylor.
Hi, David.
Hi
everyone.
How's it going?
It's going so well. I am very excited to talk to our guest today. But I thought of you because Ben and I watched, so on Netflix, do you remember Malice in the Palace? The basketball with the Detroit Pistons and the Indiana Pacers
in the 80s?
No, it was 2009. So Reggie Miller was still on the Pacers.
God, like we hated Reggie Miller.
He's the thorn in our Knicks side, of course, our Knicks for the Knicks fan. But oh my God, the story, you're going to remember it because it dealt with the Ron Artest before he was Meta World Peace. Before he went to the Lakers. He was on this Pacers team, and it was basically the Pacers setting up this championship team so that Reggie would finally get a ring. Reggie Miller was in like his 18th season, never got a ring, and this incident broke out in the regular season in Detroit at the Palace, which no longer exists. Detroit has a new stadium now, and it was this insane brawl that breaks out between the players.
A physical fight?
Between the players, fans, people got arrested, players got suspended.
God.
When you start to, because Ben said to me, do you remember Malice in the Palace? And I was like, what is Malice in the Palace?
I got to watch that. I don't remember.
I know. It's just an hour. They do all these, they're sports they're 1 hour.
There's so many good documentaries now. Did you see the Billy Joel one?
I haven't watched it yet. It's on my queue. I have it pegged to watch.
One of the most enjoyable things I've ever seen. I'm a diehard Billy Joel fan my whole life.
David, I feel like, I was a Billy Joel fan in high school too, but I do part of like my memory of us in Tucson together was us going to Price Club.
Yes.
With our per diem and buying Billy Joel CDs for our boom boxes. Like you were like,
that's so true. I remember.
The new CD just came out. The new CD.
The Stormfront.
The Stormfront just came out. And we would go and buy our CDs. And so like, I always think of you when I think of Billy Joel. So yes.
And that album reminds me of Tucson and filming Hey Dude.
So much. Like I can picture you singing those songs. Like I can
picture
so 17-year-old you doing it.
I love that. We have such shared memories. It's so cool.
We really do.
All right, so let's get ready. This is Reid Scott is a great friend of mine. We made a movie together in 2014, so over 10 years ago.
That David, you directed,
yes.
Co-wrote, and
yes, I co-wrote and directed a film based on ideas that were inspired by my own family and struggles that we all have gone through. And Reid basically played me.
And he did an incredible job. I watched it. I told you all this, and I told you all this before we came on.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I love it so much. He did an incredible job, and so did he. So I cannot wait to talk to him.
Thanks, Christine. I'm so glad you liked it. And let's welcome in my good friend Reid Scott. Christine's in New York, and she was just saying she sees your production as like part of the city all over the place.
I know some people love it, some people don't. I know.
Here's my joke. Just as a New Yorker who has never been on any incarnation of Law and Order, I've never auditioned. Well, I did. I auditioned for SVU for the pilot, like in the 90s. when I remember auditioning like back in the 90s.
Oh my God.
And then I must have offended them so much in the audition that I have never been asked to even audition to play a role, even a dead body. I feel like they've run through all the New York actors at this point.
Oh my God. Well, you have to come do it now. If I have any juice at all.
If you have any juice. Well, I took a photo the other day. Josh Molina is in town doing an episode right now.
Yep.
And we saw him the other night, and I said to him, do you have any, why don't you put in a good word for me there, jokingly. And then the next day I was walking on a street and saw that a couple blocks right in our neighborhood are being shut down for, the streets, no parking. So I took a shot of that and sent that to Josh and said, can you call this number of the production coordinator?
My God.
It's just become our running joke. So, so I'm coming at it from all angles.
Oh my God! All right, well now I'm gonna try to bring whatever angle I can provide too. That'd be so fun to have you on it. That'd be really cool.
And I'll call you Rito and everything.
Yeah, totally. Oh yeah, we already got the shorthand and everything. This would be great.
No, I know what you have to do. The next time you see them in production, just jump in front of the camera.
Exactly.
And that's it. You're on Law and Order.
I can do faint or do some kind of physical bit and to just show that I got the chops I could die.
I was very much the same. I'm from New York, and I sort of came up in New York, and it never happened. I don't think I ever auditioned for it either. And every single one, maybe I auditioned for it once, and everyone I knew, all of my friends, guys and gals, everybody was cutting their teeth on Law and Order. And I was like, what the heck, man? Why can't? And then I moved to LA, and I was like, all right, that ship has sailed. And then so, 28 years later or whatever, you finally come back around. So
it was the long game. You played the long game with it. And now look at you now.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. The show's still on. It's like part of the American fabric of culture.
Yeah. It's insane. And I'm still I'm really impressed with how the writers can still turn around these stories that are all, based in some sort of, the rip from the headlines, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. They can turn these things around so fast. And I really have a lot of respect for them, because it's very clear to me that their agenda is to keep a national discourse alive around these issues. And I think they really, they feel this responsibility of sort of look, we have the network television, their audience's ear on some of these topics. And we have a responsibility to, broach some of these at times very difficult subjects in a way that's appropriate for broadcast television. I get that. And, sometimes for my taste, it can get a little frustrating, because I will, have certain feelings or leanings on a topic that I really wish we could sort of hit harder. They're like, our job is not to make up the audience's mind for them. And I've come to really appreciate those episodes where it sort of hangs on a question. There's sort of a minor chord at the end of the episode of sort of well, what do you think, audience?
Right.
And it's just, and it keeps the dialogue going. And man, now with social media, obviously we see the audience feedback instantaneously. And it's some people get, are very passionate about their responses. Yeah.
What's one of the episodes that sticks in your mind as one of those type of episodes where there was a major question or issue?
It was one from last season where the crime was it was the assassin episode. If anyone's seen the assassin episode, where this young guy, sort of based on the Luigi, assassination in New York, he takes out a high-ranking insurance conglomerate CEO, and in our episode, something unusual happens, which is a little bit based on the public's reaction to Luigi, in that in our episode, there's a manhunt happening in real time. He's out there, and the public gets wind of it via social media, via the news, and they shield him. The public actually tries to help him get away.
Oh,
and
my
then,
God.
Yeah. And then the question is, is murder, even for the quote unquote right reasons, still justifiable and acceptable in society? And it was a great episode, not only because we got to do things in that episode that we don't get to do. We had Christine, from living in New York, like they don't allow a lot of drone shots.
Right.
But they gave us these permits for these drones. We had all this sort of overhead aerial coverage of the grid of Manhattan, and it was really fun. And we were just running all over the place. And, it was a very fast paced kind of episode. And the audience reaction to that was really incredible. A lot of people were like, I wish he had gotten away, or, I'm glad he's innocent. And then there was a whole faction that sort of, was really against that. But I love the fact that it was just sort of,
it's shades of gray. It's not black or white. You can have different feelings about it, but the law is the law. I mean,
the gray areas of the Law and Order fan base and the questions, and how cool it must be to just, do you read a lot of the stuff too? Like, do you tend to kind of follow and do you engage?
To a certain extent, I'm always intrigued by it. I'm not the biggest social media guy. I think being a product of the 90s, it was sort of appropriate for our podcast here.
Yeah.
I feel like I just kind of missed it. I sort of came into the business and, the age, I guess I was working enough before social media came along that it really took me a long time to embrace it. I was like, I don't really get it,
or same,
or I don't want to get it, whatever.
Right.
And you need to have a teenage age kid, and then you all of a sudden get it.
Yeah. And that's the challenge. I have two kids, they're 10 and 7. So they're sort of like not yet at the age of having cell phones and stuff like that, but they're very aware. So the conversation my wife and I have a lot is sort of how will we navigate that? But I do understand, you have to have an awareness of it, and you have to, engage with it a bit because it is part of the business. So I do more just for my own edification rather than my own enjoyment.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, so doing something like Law and Order, where, I haven't, most of my career has been like cable and streaming and stuff like that. So to do something on such a big broadcast scale, I was just intrigued. So I started to read it a little bit more, and I was like, oh, wow. Like, people really, this is part of their family. Like we are in their home once a week, and they love these characters and they love this show, and they have been diehard, and they feel, and probably rightfully so, that their opinion matters. And so it's been really interesting. So I don't engage back.
Yes,
I try to read it, but I don't really comment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Reid, where were you in the 90s? You at Syracuse University, New York actor. Tell me about where you started.
Let's see. I graduated high school, went to Syracuse University in like late 90s, and then moved to New York City from there. I grew up in Saratoga County. So upstate, everyone knows.
Yeah. I love Saratoga.
Beautiful.
I was just there.
The Raceway and wait, that's right. Wait, David, your grandparents had a place up in Lake George, right?
Yeah, my aunt and uncle, and my daughter is up at camp right by there in it's called Brant Lake.
Yeah, I know Brant Lake.
We've been there every
so
summer for visiting day. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
But so I went from Saratoga to Syracuse, and then I got an internship at a production company in like 1998 in Manhattan. And it was these guys, these 3 Syracuse alum that had a production company called the Araka Group, and they were doing some pretty cool plays and stuff in New York. So that kind of got me to New York. And even at that time, honestly, I wasn't really focusing on acting. I thought I was going to be like a writer, director, producer.
Oh, wow.
Is really more of my focus. I had taken a fair amount of acting classes while at Syracuse and loved it, but I really was sort of doing it. I felt like an interloper. I really thought I was sort of doing it. I'm like, oh, well, I got to learn the language so I know what it is to ask of, my cast, should I ever have one that I'm directing. And, and then along the way, I just really found that I loved it. But it wasn't my focus. So when I got to New York, I was still trying to write. I was like shooting little music videos and stuff like that. I wanted to be Spike Jonze. I was just like,
wow.
Spike
awesome.
Jonze, and like his early Beastie Boys stuff. I was like, oh, that was
the best. Sabotage.
Oh, it was
my
the greatest.
God.
The greatest. I
Right?
think all through my college years, I had this black and white Beastie Boys Sabotage T-shirt that had giant holes in the armpits. It was like
nothing cooler.
Yeah, that was my uniform. And that's what I thought I was going to do. And I was like a little, sort of wannabe skate punk in the 90s and stuff too. So that was my world. And I never thought in a million years I would,
So what pushed you, what redirected you to focus on acting?
I had a really amazing teacher at Syracuse, Jerry Clark. And she, at first I was taking her classes and, again, really just, to learn the tricks and purely observationally. I was like auditing her classes. And she sort of convinced me, it's like, hey, if you want to know what it is you're going to ask of your actors, you need to do it.
Right.
Sure. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So I did a couple black box plays and really liked it. And then by the time I was done at school, she helped me. Syracuse at the time, they did not have an undergrad directing major. They had the film department and they had the drama school. And I was actually in the film department, but the two schools sort of never met because they were separated. The film school was way up on the main campus.
Wouldn't the film students need to use the drama students for their project?
Weather is changing. Fall is approaching. One of my favorite seasons of the year.
Is it sweater weather?
It's sweater weather. And we have to talk about this incredible brand, Quince.
Quince.
I have been buying things from Quince for I don't even know how long, because I think I got an ad on Instagram once that just gave this price point for Mongolian cashmere sweaters for like under $100. And I mean, believe me, I've spent big bucks on nice cashmere sweaters over the years. So I love Quince.
Jill does too. I didn't know about it, but when I told Jill, like, we're going to be reading for Quince, she's like, no way. Can we get stuff? When I went on Quince, I was like, oh, that looks like that. That is exactly like that. And this shirt I'm wearing, this is my Quince shirt.
That's amazing.
And it's exactly like, I have to say, it's exactly like another brand. Like the quality is incredible.
I love their style. I already went on and have looked at some of the cashmere sweaters. It's in my little cart.
Oh, you have a cart going?
I have a cart going. I say to all of our listeners, log on to Quince and do treat yourself to some shopping, because this is the brand.
Look for some cashmere. Oh my God.
Yes, they're classic. They're never going to go out of style.
Right. And you'll have it for years.
Yes.
So keep it classic and cozy this fall with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/heydude for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns.
That's QUINCE.com/heydude to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/heydude.
Wouldn't the film students need to use the drama students for their projects?
You would have thought. And that's kind of what I noticed. Like by my sophomore year, it was really just because of proximity. So the drama school was closer to downtown Syracuse. It was off campus and it was affiliated with Syracuse Stage, which was a great regional theater up there. And so you just didn't see the theater kids because they just weren't on campus. And so that's why I started taking those classes down there. And I said, we should be using these actors in our films instead of like the kids from our dorm or, whatever.
Right.
And I eventually took Jerry's class, and it was just a, straight up scene study class. And I just loved it. She just broke acting down in a way that, I don't know. I could just digest it. It didn't seem, I think up until then, I thought acting was this really ethereal thing that it was, and I was so impressed by it. I mean, that's what drew me to this business in the first place. But I really thought it was magic. And I'm like, I can't weave that magic. I can maybe point that in a direction,
right.
And help sort of fan the flames of that magic. But I don't know how to conjure that stuff up. And she broke it down in a way that made it so approachable And I really loved the psychology behind it. And I started to dig it. So I started to, to experiment more and more with it. But again, never thinking that I would do it for a living until cut to my senior year. I had done enough plays, and I also directed enough plays and directed enough films that she said, "Hey, I think I can help get you an agent." And I was like, "Oh, well, I mean, sure, I guess any foot in the door. Okay, cool." But I also thought that I was just going to sort of use that. I was like, yeah, I'll go on these auditions just to get the experience so that I know how to talk to my actors.
You were still like, I'm just an observer for my directing career. Yeah.
Yeah. And if I ever get lucky enough to if I get a gig, well, great, that's money in my pocket. And then I can go buy, 35 millimeter film, and I can rent my little, Bolex, and I can go off and I can shoot my thing and, get an editing room and stuff like that. And it was just a means to an end. And I had a couple of casting directors early on who, after I got a couple of jobs, who they told me sort of like, yeah, you just seemed like you didn't need it.
Oh, and isn't that the key to getting acting roles?
I guess
is that sexy indifference.
Gosh.
Yeah. And I loved it. I always had this respect for it, but I was never expecting to get the part. I was like, I was here just to learn.
So you weren't reeking of desperation like the rest of us were.
Like I am now.
Like all of us are now. Right?
Yeah. I slowly cultivated my desperate stench.
I love that one teacher can really have such an effect on the direction of a life, She was
incredible.
I feel like that's the case in any field. If you get, even with our kids in schools, if you get one teacher that just speaks to you in a way, like you said, that you can digest it, that it's like you just get it and unlock something.
Or they see something in you that you just didn't see.
Yes, it's so that cool. Is the magic. I feel like it's exactly what you said. So it's amazing. So you the first couple jobs you got, you just never expected to get. Were those episodic things that you went in on, or commercials? Or
I think it was a couple commercials. I did 2 days on All My Children on the soap, and then I think
All My Children. Oh wow.
Yeah, and then a small part in a little indie movie, and it was all just little stuff. I was just sort of cobbling it together, and honestly, it was oh, sweet. I'm making rent. And I was a bartender, and I was, doing all this stuff. And then kind of my first real pilot season. I don't know how much the audience might be aware of the pilot season, which I don't even know if it exists anymore.
I know we talk about that all because it was such a 90s thing. And we've kind of talked to our listeners about it being this period of time between January and March, where they would be casting all the new TV shows, and actors would come to LA and spend time in LA and audition and test for things. But I think you're right. I don't think that exists anymore.
No.
That time, those few months where it was so condensed.
Yeah, it was so exciting.
Oh man, gosh. I thought it was just I loved it. I had other friends who were actors that would always sort of lament, oh man, I have very lucky to have 3, 4, 5, 6 auditions a week, something like that. And they're like, man, it's so much. And I was like, this is amazing. I get to be 6 different people in a week. I was like, this is really cool, man. Wow, what a neat experience. Again, expecting nothing to really come of it. And then I booked a pilot, a comedy for Steve Levitan.
Oh my God. Wow.
Just Shoot Me. And Modern Family, where I basically played a young Steve Levitan. It was a newsroom comedy, loosely based on his experience. He started off in broadcast journalism, I guess. And it was the first time I had ever come to Los Angeles. And I was so nervous. And the entire time I was like, they're going to figure out that I'm not really an actor.
Oh.
And when they do, they're going to be so mad.
Every single actor on a set has that feeling, that imposter
syndrome, right?
Yeah. But at the time I was really terrified because I never thought I was particularly, I thought I had a good sense of humor, but I never thought that I was really,
funny.
Yeah. Comedically. I thought if you were on a comedy, it was more like Ben. Like you were a comic. You were generating comedic material. So you were either a stand-up or you were doing sketch comedy or, and I was, to go keeping it in the 90s, like The State. I was obsessed with The State.
Those guys.
They were incredible.
Amazing.
Absolutely incredible. And so I had this real respect, like reverence for comedy, but I never thought that I could pull it off. So I was just so nervous the entire time. And the pilot did not get picked up. So I think I did not get paid very much. I think I spent all the money that I got paid from that job just paying my SAG dues and my rental car. And I think I probably bought like a few too many pairs of sneakers or something like that. And I was like, oh, that was it. But that was fun. Okay, great. I shot a pilot. And then ABC like offered me a holding deal, which they don't do those anymore.
I don't think they do those anymore. I know. I got one of those. I got a couple of those back in the 90s too.
Which I was like, this is crazy. They're going to give me money to just hang out.
Yes, to not do something for someone else, and they'll bring me things. Right? Yeah. It's so crazy.
It was awesome.
Did that leave to It's All Relative? That was your first show that got on, right?
Yeah, and that was ABC. So I think like my deal was over by then, but I was sort of in their pipeline, and then I got to do It's All Relative, and that changed a lot for me. Honestly, I like to get to work with Lenny Clark and Harriet Harris and Maggie Lawson and John Benjamin Hickey. I mean, like real veteran actors and actresses. I learned in comedy. Yeah. And Lenny Clark, who's, huge stand-up comic at the time. Yeah. Harriet Harris is just an incredible actress. I mean, I think she's, if people don't know, she's on the show right now on Paramount. Oh my God. The CIA show with Michael Fassbender.
Oh, the agency.
The agency.
Oh my
yes,
gosh.
I've heard of that.
Yes, I know. Oh my God, she's incredible.
She's the Frank.
I know. Yes,
she's so good.
So good.
And so I just sat there, and John Benjamin Hickey, who's just phenomenal Broadway actor, and I just learned so much from them. And that's kind of where I really started to see. It's like, oh wow, maybe this is what I do.
Right.
And yeah, it's kind of been a weird 20-year accident.
Yeah. You really did it sidetrack you from the directing, or have you been able? Did it? You just kind of
It did. I don't know. I mean, you guys probably felt the same thing too. There's a pressure that comes in this business. Like once you start working, there's a lot of pressure to keep it going because God forbid you step aside for a while or you turn the wrong thing down, then you may never get the opportunity again because they're always looking for the next one. Who's next up?
Yep.
And so I kind of I was lucky enough to kind of keep going in that regard. But in between every job is, I'd be at home like furiously writing or trying to put the pieces together to shoot a short film or something like that. And then, I would just sort of get lucky enough that something would come along and be like, okay, I guess I'm going back to work in this regard. And then I kind of woke up one day and I was like, oh, wow, 15, 18 years have gone by and I've been doing this thing that I never thought I would ever even get the chance to do. And then I was able to start to kind of swing it back towards writing and directing. So I'm doing a lot more of that now. But
yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't have to be one or the other.
No.
You could.
No, and especially not now. I think you're right. But I think like when you're in that moment in time and you are kind of riding that wave, because you never know when that wave is going to crash and it's going to be a dry spell. And I do think, people get very, comfortable with it, for you to completely shift gears right in the middle of, having a lot of heat on you and working, from job to job. If you go off and direct something, and if that, sort of labor of love, that if it was something that doesn't even really get seen, then suddenly you've been off the grid for a year, right?
Yeah.
Probably more, probably longer, from start to finish. So, yes, it's great that I feel like now also you've earned your keep. You know what I mean? 20 plus years of doing it and, and getting great jobs. And now hopefully it's great to be able to go off and do, this is a good segue, by the way, guys, to talk about your collaboration together.
Yeah.
Which was, what year was that? So David, set this up, because I want to also just say that I watched it for the first time last night. And I told David before you came on, like, of course, knowing David for a long, long time brought me to tears. I thought you were
it's beautiful,
incredible in it.
Oh, thank you.
Like, and David, just to talk a little bit about you making that choice to write and direct at that period of time in your career too. So why don't you guys talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, Reid, I'm not surprised that you were so successful in comedy, because then I know you did My Boys with Gaffigan and our friend Jamie Kaler. But then, when Sister came along, the film that I wrote with Todd Cammey and I directed, it was a very personal story. For me, I felt like if I'm going to direct something for the first time, it has to be a story that only I could tell, or else why would anyone let me direct it? So I wrote about my family and some struggles that my mom had and my younger adopted sister. And I had originally, I think I originally came up with the idea for myself to act in it and play myself. And then a few years went by. It takes forever to get a movie going. And I just felt like I'm a few years older than you. And I felt like those few years made the character, it was important for the character to not be so old that he's just like, missed the boat on his life, that there's still a chance for him to go have a family and step up and do all the things he wants to do. So when we had auditions, Reid, I mean, you just blew me away, and your versatility, because this role called for, some very serious moments. And I think of your work with Grace Kaufman, who's like one of the best actresses, not even children.
She was fantastic. She was
one of the best actresses I've ever worked with. But tell me your impressions from that shoot and working with people like Grace and with Barbara Hershey. Because I just thought the whole thing was such an amazing experience from my perspective, and working with you.
I loved, from the moment I read it, and you and I talked about this, I had a very similar family experience. Yeah. In that, I had a mom who, suffers from mental illness, and I have an adopted sister. So, obviously some circumstances were different, but there were so many parallels. It really felt, it was one of those times where the script came my way and I was like, oh, I need to do this. Like I have to be the only, just like you said, you were the only guy to tell the story. I was like, I'm the only guy to play this part, other than you.
Yeah. You wrote me a letter. I remember after the audition, he wrote me a really beautiful letter.
Oh,
we had dinner.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right down the street at the Village.
The Village. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And, it was great. Like I love indie filmmaking. I really do. I've done, a fair share of studio stuff as well, but indie filmmaking, I think because that's what I came up, again, product of the 90s when indie film was just at its absolute peak. Mm-hmm. That was always the style of film making that I was interested in. And I love the all hands on deck, necessity is the mother of invention kind of vibe that exists on an indie film set where you're up against the clock. You don't have the budgets. It's literally a labor of love. And I love getting that close with the people that you get to work with. I think because I sort of, have the director sensibilities as well. I'm just really interested in what's going on in every department, art department, hair and makeup, art direction, the cinematography, the gaffers. I want to know what they're doing. I'm fascinated by it all. And I found in some of the larger movies I've done, there's a bit of a separation where it's sort of like, okay, the actors are sort of kept over here and the crew is kept over here. And the schedule is such they sort of like they roll out the actors when they want to put them on their mark and sort of like they go do your thing and then sort of like now go away.
Right.
And with indie film, everyone's just like on top of each other. You know, you're doing your thing. It's sort of like, yeah, you look down and sort of like, okay, I'm an actor, but I'm going to move this cable because it needs to be moved.
Right. I'm going to get changed in a bedroom on the set somewhere.
Like, who cares? And it was great. And I don't know, you fostered a really warm vibe on set. And, you know, Peter Winter, who's another mutual friend of ours, who's one of the producers, like he's great. He does some, you know, huge stuff. And he just loved the story too. Everyone who was there because they loved the story. And
yes, Peter Winter. I had talked about making this movie for a few years, but as soon as Peter said, I'll do it, all of a sudden I was making a movie. Yeah. It just takes like one person that actually knows how to crew up, you know, hire the casting director and just like, we have a go movie and that's it. We have a start date.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember one thing about that movie, the production designer, like Christine, we had this, there's a funeral scene that we really needed. And so we took a location in Pasadena, this enormous cemetery, mausoleum. It was like this huge thing that a lot of productions use. And we decided, like, if we're going to company move there, our production designer turned that cemetery mausoleum not only into the funeral scene, but into a restaurant, into a hospital. Like, you know, you have a good production designer. She's just like, I need 4 walls. Just give me 4 walls and I'll give you a hospital room. Wow. Give me, you know, just a nice outdoor area and I will build you a restaurant.
It was really cool. Cafe surrounded by dead bodies. It was really
right. So sexy.
You would never know.
It was beautiful too. I mean, there's one shot in particular that I was so like, I just loved so much. It felt like it was that golden hour of her doing yoga by herself, just outside by the pool. It's just the sunlight and just this moment. And then, you know, it's coming towards the end of the film. And then, you know, Reid, you have this incredible moment where you just say, I've pretty much lost everything. I don't have a life. I lost my marriage and I've never been happier. And oh my God, like it gutted me. It just is such a beautiful, beautiful performance, beautiful story. And
I got to give it to Grace too. She was just,
you two together. I mean, she's so special.
One line that Reid had when we premiered at Tribeca, this one line that you put in there when you're about to do yoga and you go, now you say namaste. And she goes, what does that mean? You go, she says, what is that? And you go, nobody knows what it means. Got like every screening that got the biggest laugh. And that was just like a little throwaway line of yours.
It was those little moments. I love finding those little improvised moments. Just because it keeps me entertained, you know, I chuckle and it's kind of fun. But when you have a vibe on set and when you have the sort of connection that you feel the freedom to do that, that's when the best moments always end up showing up. Because when everyone is so invested and so relaxed and everyone is really working in sync, and then some other part of the brain just takes over and you can invent from there. But gosh, she was like, I don't think I'd ever worked with a young actress that intimately before. I was just blown away by how talented she was at she was 12 or something. Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. And
her character, starts heavily medicated and you yank her off all these medications pretty abruptly.
Against all of the doctor's orders and everything. Yeah. You know, you really, you know her in a way that you need to try this. And I think it's just the way you fight for her.
And I remember her mother had a timeline for all the scenes, like where the character was in her kind of like withdrawal from these meds, because she does go through like a complete paranoia. When you show up, you have a scene at the school where you've put her painting up in a show for people to see, and she completely loses her shit. And I just remember you like grabbing her, trying to calm her down, and take after take. It was just one of the most amazing things I've seen on a set, the two of you together in that scene.
It's very special.
But then, let's talk about Veep, man. Cause I watched I mean, Christine, you're a fan of the show as well?
Oh my God. I mean, I don't even know where to begin on Veep. I mean, well, one thing I did hear you, doing my little research, but I did see you do an interview where you talked about the script and just going back to what you were just talking about the freedom of being able to play and being able to, when everything is dialed in that way. Did you have that luxury on Veep? Was that the vibe? Because that's what it felt like. I mean, you just never know. But then I heard you talk about on Maisel, it was totally different. So, and I just thought, so let's talk about Veep a little bit too, because to me, it's unrivaled. There's nothing. I mean,
it was amazing. It was absolutely, a major highlight of my career so far. Never to be repeated for sure. Very lightning in a bottle, but it was also insane. It was one of the most difficult experiences I've ever had as well. Challenging, I should say, not necessarily.
Well, why?
First of all, I mean, on a personal level, I was really intimidated by the likes of Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Tony
I can't
Hale.
Imagine why.
Right. I know she's only the greatest comedic actress of a generation or any other. And she's lovely. So it wasn't anything about her, but it was just sort of like, wow, can I step up to that level? And then, but even more, and not to take anything away from Julia, but I was most intimidated by Matt Walsh from Upright Citizens Brigade.
Yeah.
And not intimidated in the fact that I was, really, put off or nervous. I was just in awe of him. And I was, when I was in college, the state and UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade, were the two subversive sketch comedy groups that, if you cared about that at all, I ran home from class. Before TiVo, you couldn't record anything. I would run home from class in college and park myself in front of the TV and just watch UCB. And what they did was just unlike anything else in the comedy world at that time. So when we got on set, when I got the job, and even the way I got the job for Veep was sort of I really wasn't expecting it, but I knew a bit about politics. I'm kind of a political wonk. My dad is in politics a little bit, and some of my other relatives are in politics a little bit. So I always really had a penchant for it. So when I got the script, I was sort of oh man, this is fun. This is what they're doing here is really, really cool. And I went in to meet with Armando Iannucci, the show's creator. And, we ran the scenes that they put out on the sides. And the greatest thing about Armando, he's like, all right, throw it away. He's like, I just want to talk to Dan. I just want to talk to Dan. And I swear I blacked out. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. And we just ended up having a conversation about, what drew me to DC and what my professional and political aspirations are and how I think I'm going to get there. And I just went off on this diatribe, and he just sort of sat back and he looked over at Frank Rich and he was just right. And they were just that's it.
There's Dan.
I was
That's
oh
our
my
Dan.
God. I was like, really?
You had a conversation with him as the character of
as
Dan.
the character. Yeah.
That is the most brilliant way to cast somebody, right?
He was great. Yeah. And he's good because he is
smart.
a mad scientist. Make no mistake about it. Armando Iannucci, one of the most brilliant comedic minds of our time. His brilliance lies in his just love of experimentation. So he will just do things and then when we got to actually shooting it, it became very clear that that's what we were in. We were in a lab. This was not a TV production. We loaded in 2 weeks early in Baltimore, which is another challenge because everyone was sort of everyone was away from home.
Displaced. Yeah.
And we would read the scripts and rehearse them and get them on their feet a little bit. And then we would just completely improvise them. And the writers were there sort of literally sitting in the periphery. And actually the early days before we even got to Baltimore, we went to London because Armando and all of his writers lived in London. And we were just in the basement of this, the Langham Hotel in London having these rehearsals. And the writers would sit on the periphery of the room and just take copious notes. So we would improvise and they were just like scribbling everything down. Then they would all go away and rewrite. And the next day we would come back and rehearse it again with new pages that they had rewritten to incorporate our improv. And,
All right.
And we would do it again and again. And so it was this distillation process. So by the time we actually got to shoot it weeks later, the script, no one could even tell. They were very unselfish. Like the writers are sort of like no one even, they're like, that's not my joke. That's our joke. No one knows who came up with that. You guys might have come up with it. We might have come up with it. Who cares? Doesn't matter.
Like so no egos.
No egos.
That's incredible.
But I see why you were intimidated. I mean, you're basically doing improv sketch with Matt Walsh and Tony Hale and Gary Cole and Julia. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to be with those guys with a written script, but to just be asked to like, all right, jump in the pool with these guys. But oh my God.
And Julia is brilliant. Like she comes up, she was so dialed into that character and she's just so self-possessed and so confident that she would find this subtlest. And that's what I learned a lot from that. And, you know, at first there was sort of this sort of environment of like who can top each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
right. about how sick the line could be, like how
cruel you can be to your scene partner or whatever. We were apologizing to each other every 5 seconds. Like we'd say something and be like, I didn't really mean that. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's great.
And then that's how the whole show went. It was just this constant, you know, experimentation. It really felt like a laboratory where you'd show up and you wouldn't even know what you were going to shoot that day sometimes. Like you knew what was on the call sheet, but you might get there and they'd be like, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're going to do something else. I'm like, all right. And even the way he shot it in the first 4 seasons, you guys will understand this, that it was, you know, it wasn't traditional. Well, it was sort of traditional coverage, but then it wasn't. So you'd start with the wide shot and then get tighter and tighter and tighter. But along the way, we were improvising and finding cool stuff. So once he got into the tight shot, then we would work our way back out. So we were double covering everything.
Oh my God.
And was the cameraman like whipping back and forth? Like
it was insane. They were on like earwigs. And so they're like, you know, because there was like 4 cameras to get us all and they're all handheld. So they'd be like, you know, camera A, duck. And the camera would go down and like camera B would go like that to follow somebody and come back across. And they didn't care about which side of the line you were on. Or just, they shot in 360. It was like, it was mayhem. And half the time I would see the episodes and I was like, I don't remember doing any of that.
Wow.
We got told so many times that it was the most accurate representation of DC on television, that, you know, people got involved in politics because of, you know, the West Wing.
Yeah.
And they wanted to believe that politics was like House of Cards. Mm-hmm. But politics really was like Veep, where it was just a bunch of morally reprehensible people fumbling all over themselves to just prop themselves up and push for whatever self-serving agenda they had on that day.
All about getting ahead.
Yeah.
Scary.
Oh my
to
God.
think
But
of
I
that.
can imagine that when you talked about it being one of the more challenging experiences, like as an actor to come to show up day after day in this sort of state of unknown of like, you just have to be ready.
Yeah.
You know, because I think as actors, you want to feel as prepared as possible. You want to feel like you are, you know, you have whatever the speech or the lines or the this or the I'm ready to show up. But to you sort of just have to be game ready for what, like that would be like day after day after day, not just a one-off, not just one fun episode where you guys played like that. It was just the entire series was it 7 seasons?
7 seasons. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I got used to, you know, you do get used to it after a while. The first season, it was so exciting because it was so new, but I really enjoyed my time, but it was grueling seasons 2, 3, and 4. And I was always very kind of jealous of the Matt Walshes and Tim Simons, who were really relishing this kind of environment. I was like, man, I just like, you guys have this innate ability to always be improvising and just sort of rolling with it. And because my training was a little more sort of traditional, I ended up finding my sort of version of that. But it's like whenever we would get a script that would stay mostly locked, I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God.
I can breathe. I can breathe for a second.
But at least you learned it,
Yeah.
It was like probably the best education on how to roll with improv comedy.
But then it ruined me for Maisel because I got to Maisel and I was like, I don't know how to hit a mark. I don't know how to say the lines as written. I was like, oh.
I don't remember, right? I don't remember the training. Oh,
it was hard.
So how did you adjust to that? And how was that experience for you? Coming into a show that was already established too, right?
What a beautiful show. I admittedly was not very aware. I mean, I was aware that it was a show, but it wasn't a show that I regularly watched. And when the producers reached out to me to offer me this part, we had this wonderful Zoom, and I was just like, I instantly I thought that they were just incredible. And they sent me the materials, like, oh, this is really cool, And I said they probably thought I was being so flip or arrogant. I was like, all right, cool, yeah, let me think about it.
Oh no, you didn't really?
Yeah, it's like, I didn't really know the show.
Right.
And I told them that, and I went, I downloaded with my wife about it, and she's like, "You idiot! You're fucking doing it.
You're doing it."
Oh, okay. And so she sort of like she rushed me through. I think we watched the first 2 seasons, and once I saw the brilliance and the absolute poetry that they were writing in that show, and how Amy Sherman Palladino, one of the co-showrunners with her husband, Dan Palladino, she is a former choreographer. So everything she writes and the way that she shoots is sort of is choreographed in her mind. So it's all very deliberate, and it's all set to this music in her head. And once it was really cool to try to sort of, get on that mental track. And once I did, it took me like a couple of weeks to sort of like reacclimate myself to that. I just loved it because they also had all the toys. It was so cinematic. They brought in all the cranes and all the drones and all the stuff. So you felt like you were shooting like, $100 million movie every week. And it was really fun to end up doing the opposite, where it's like before in Veep, it was always like, let's mess it up. Whatever it is, it sounds too written, mess it up. This was, don't change a word. Don't change an utterance. Don't change a syllable. Like everything's been crap. And then you realize, yeah, you know what? You're right. But you don't want to change it. They were that brilliant in crafting their scripts that to deliver it any other way. I mean, they wanted you to bring your performance to it, but you wouldn't want to fumfer through and put in little, I want to sort of change it to make it sound a little bit like, nope, keep it like this.
It's also a
clean,
different
keep it clean.
time period. I mean, you're playing the 50s, right? So it's not like you can just...
50s, early 60s,
improv. Did you like playing that time period? And you play, like Jack Parr, like a huge celebrity talk show host.
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I had gotten to be kind of friendly with Stephen Colbert over the years. And so before I showed up for the job, I called him. I said, hey, can I pick your brain? And he's like, about what? About how to play a talk show host? I'm like, no. I'm not actually interested in how you do the stuff behind the desk. What I want to know is how you change gears. He's like, the different masks you wear between, husband at home, running the writer's room in the way that talk show hosts do. You're also a businessman because you're the face of this network at a time where, network television was still pretty new. And you're also having to be, America's sweetheart, and it's like, there's no way that's one guy. Like you're 4 guys. And so Steven,
true.
And Stephen was sort of like, oh yeah. He's like, no one's ever asked me that. And I like to believe that he actually had a lot of fun sort of like dishing with me on what it was like to sort of drop that mask, put another one on, do another one, because, Stephen's incredible. And I think what he's doing on The Late Show now is very much him, but there's a bit of a persona that you got to put on. Mm-hmm. But what he did on Colbert Report,
oh my God,
pure character.
Oh yeah.
Total character. Yes, and with an actor's foundation too. I mean,
he was an actor.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing. I admitted this before we came on that I have not seen Maisel yet. So now, as I said,
so
I set it up that I get behind on TV shows, but now this is I will treat myself to that.
Oh man, like Rachel, everyone on the show is absolutely fantastic. Tony Shalhoub was one of my favorite actors of all time.
Oh, the greatest.
Just like what he does in this show is just absolutely brilliant. Everybody, they really nailed it. They really nailed it.
But tell us what you've got going on. Like you said, you've got, you're getting to direct a little bit and write. And is there anything we should look out for or that you've got in the works?
It's fun. A few things. I mean, it's all like kind of early days on this stuff, but I'm developing a show with the good people at Dick Wolf Productions, like a new sort of detective show. But it was really important to me. Like, Los Angeles has become my sort of adoptive home, and we all know that like there's not a whole lot of work here. So I really set out to design a show that needed to be shot in Los Angeles. So we're developing one that is. And I love detective noir. I love I'm like Raymond Chandler. Like I kind of came up reading all of my dad's old like pulp, detective noir books and things like that. And so that's kind of that is one of the reasons why I took the job at Law and Order, because it sort of scratched that noir itch. Yeah. But we're working on a show that's going to be like, real dark, real gritty, definitely cable streaming kind of thing. So sort of like detective noir for television with the gloves off is kind of what we're doing. And then
that's amazing.
I shot a short film based on a feature that I wrote. It's so fun because it's this little slice of life, but it's I always love stuff that have a little bit of magic in it. Like, I came up watching, remember Amazing Stories, like the Steven Spielberg series, right? That was a huge part of our youth. And I always love those little slice of life stories for kids that sort of felt like it could happen to you. Right. So I wrote this little, kind of sci-fi thing, and it's just two 14-year-old boys. And we shot this thing about a month ago. We're like editing it right now and doing some VFX for it. But I was so blown away by these two 14-year-old boys and their performances, and just like watching these two who did not know each other get to be legit friends over the course of 3 days. And they're like, oh yeah, man, I'll meet you on Roblox, which is so funny. Talk about not having a cell phone. They're sort of like, oh yeah, I'll find you on Roblox.
Right.
But it was so satisfying. It came out great. And it was, I'm trying to make something for the 14-year-old kid in me.
Did you direct it?
Yeah, I wrote it and directed it.
Oh,
and
there you go. This is awesome.
Amazing. Like, I called in every favor I could, and we had like really serious production value on this tiny little thing because everyone just kind of dug the story.
The short could be used to maybe get the feature made.
That's kind of the goal. Yeah,
I love it. Yes. Yeah, man.
I really want to, try to prove. I feel like there's so many movies now that are kind of aimed at young people, but starring people that are 20, 30 years older than those people.
Right.
Like a lot of the superhero movies and stuff like that. And I was like, where are the movies for the 14-year-olds? Like, the Stand By Me.
Stand By Me, The Sandlot. Yeah, those type of
Sandlot. Flight of the Navigator, Monster Squad, all this, fun stuff. So, that's my stab at that.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This was such a treat getting to I just, honestly, you're literally like the sweetest human being. And
I'm nicer than Dan. I get that a lot.
I know. I caught myself saying it mid-sentence. That's why I was like, I really shouldn't say something so cliche, but you just did it. You just were so assy as Dan.
He's literally the opposite. He's the sweetest, most approachable.
Getting to see you in David's, to see the work you two did together too, watching that yesterday also, then I was like, oh, I see this guy. He's not Dan. He's not Dan Egan. He's
I'm very serious. I'm as soon as I get back to New York, I'm going to talk to the powers that be. It'd be so fun to have you do an episode of Law and Order. I can't believe it hasn't come up.
Get me in there.
If that happens, I will be so excited.
I'm just going to go stalk the location on, I think it's 11th or 12th Street.
We're going to make this happen.
I took the picture of the dates. I'm just going to go stand around there and just like be crazy stalker person. Like, hey.
Hell yeah. I will tip you off where we're going to be. I'm like, we're going to be on the corner of so-and-so. We just like happen to stop by. And
just look amazing. Hi. Come by, just wander by. Oh
my God, you'd be so good.
Subliminally.
You'd be so good on it. Yeah.
No, it would be so much fun. One of these days.
You want to play the villain though, right? You want to be like,
come on, I should be the one who did it.
Oh, that would be
I should be the one who did it. Exactly.
Marsha Brady is a killer.
Yes.
All right. I love you, buddy. I'll keep in touch.
Thanks, Rito.
Thanks, Reid.
I'm taking your nickname, David.
Please do.
What a sweetheart.
Fun. That was really fun.
So incredible. I love the stories of like those who never set out to act.
You know what?
Obviously he had a creative mind and wanted to make films and direct and write and all of those things, but to only go in and take an acting class just so that he as a director could learn how to talk to and relate to actors. How amazing. And then that teacher that he talked about.
Yeah. Who said you should be an actor. I didn't know that he did not have any aspiration to act, but I mean, his trajectory was just, first show he got was Steve Levitan.
Yeah.
Then that comedy with Lenny Clark, then My Boys, it just kept going and going and going.
Well, he was clearly destined to do this. And then,
I was telling you, like, I when I was working with him, I would see him on the monitor and I'd go, this is like a younger George Clooney. Mm-hmm. He's very like what he did in our film was he's very subtle, but he just oozes this charisma and this innate likability. You just want to root for him without him doing anything.
Yeah.
He's just got that thing. And then he can mold it into broad comedy or, serious drama. He's just so talented.
Yeah, very talented. And I thought I'm glad that we got to talk a little bit about how and why you cast him, because when I was watching it, I was thinking like, oh, I wonder if David would have wanted to play the role, and it makes total sense. But for you to be able to find him and the story, by the way, that he had, not all of the same circumstances, but just understood the story because his mom struggled with mental illness and he had an adopted sister. Like to me, that's when something is so meant to be, when you just know, and as he said, no one else can play this except for you, David, and you weren't going to play it. So what a gift.
We've talked to a lot of actors on here that just go above and beyond in advocating for themselves. And after the audition with Reid, we had a really great audition session. He wrote a letter that he gave to the casting director to give to me. And it said all of that stuff that I have lived so much of this character's experience. Yeah. And he told me about his childhood. And then I said, let's have dinner. And we had a dinner together. And that's where I was like, oh my God, no one else can really play this role. It's got to be him.
Yeah. Yeah. He just, pitch where people can watch this. Cause you sent me a link, but you said you can stream it on Amazon?
Oh yeah. Sister. Yeah. If you look for Sister, the movie starring Barbara Hershey and Reid Scott, it's on Amazon Prime, is the best place to find it.
I highly recommend it to our listeners and to just get a little slice of your talent and your story and your gifts and just, Reid was amazing in it. And what a great guest. Great guest. Thank you, David, for asking him to come on.
That was fun. And thank you everybody for listening. You can find us. You can follow us at Hey Dude, the 90s Called. You could watch us on YouTube with these beautiful cameras. And please subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. That really helps us. And please feel free to share these episodes with anyone you think might like them. And we will see you next week.
Bye.